Rally round the flag, rally round the red, gold, black and green. Rally round the red, gold, black and green. Marcus say, so Marcus say, red for the flag, flowed like the river. Marcus say, so Marcus say, green for the land, Africa. Marcus say, yellow for the gold that they stole. So Marcus say, black for the people it looted from.
Beginning of the 20th century, took the torch and the baton from Paul Bogle and all those in the struggle before him for black liberation, equality and justice. Having recognized the commonality of the plight of the black family wherever we found ourselves, he constructed the rescue vehicle for the black race, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, and the African Communities League, ACL, in 1914. In 1916, he used the podium of the United States of America to gather and galvanize the largest black organization in history. A great threat to white supremacy, he was arrested, charged with mail fraud, and deported in 1927 back to Jamaica. Home again, the indefatigable genius continued the struggle and formed the PPP, the People's Political Party, in September of 1929 in Jamaica's first political party. Ironically, here in Jamaica, he was fraudulently imprisoned for challenging the arbiters of justice. So his hands were twice pierced as he holds the confessional laws of Ma'at, not guilty of a single one, with the evolutionary and revolutionary seal of the Jacobin, which is a petition and demand for the Jamaican government to expunge Garvey. Well, this is Expunge Garvey. That's the caption on this one, and it's very, very bold and carries a lot of symbolism and aesthetics which really would need to be clarified to the viewers. For Garvey himself, as you know, was found guilty on a trumped up charge in America of mail fraud, and his nemesis at the time was no other than J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI. Now, J. Edgar Hoover is the man who said he cannot get a good night's sleep on account of Garvey, and he says his greatest nightmare is black unity, which is exactly what Garvey was about. So you see how important it was for him to trump up a charge of mail fraud on Garvey and eventually to get him deported. So this is a complex presentation. So as the founder of the UNIA, could you clarify for us what are the symbolisms in this vehicle, rescue vehicle as it were?
Well, the UNIA, as we all know, represent the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
Yes.
Garvey realized that we were, based on our conscious level, we were divided in about 4 to 5 basic groups. Group 1 are the fighters who have a vision, such as himself, Dr. Ben, Professor Henry Clark, like Dr. Green, and so on, are fighters. But below the fighters, you have lukewarm. The lukewarm are those of us who submit ourselves to the process of learning, so can be transformed in becoming fighters. But below the lukewarm, you have average person, or the middle of the roaders. They know that there's a problem, but they're not the ones who stick their neck out to solve the problem. But when things start getting right between the fighters and the lukewarm, those who don't care would jump in and say I was there from the beginning. So it's a matter of organizational techniques in galvanizing people in mass participation in the struggle of, black redemption. Then even below the average person, you have a small group, which is the collaborators. They are few but can be very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So the words of the fighters are palatable to the lukewarm, organizing to the average person, palatable to those of us who want to, in our everyday life,
Yes.
make a difference in our revolution. So the science of mass participation is when the fighters and the lukewarm start doing things that look so correct in the eyes of average person, they will jump in and say, I was there from the beginning. So the ACA was set up by Garvey for those who evolve from the level of just mere average person
Yes.
to become a part of the lukewarm group, and even graduate out of that into being fighters. We can see where a lot of that is going on in the continent of Africa now, and in America and all over the world. It's all started by Garvey.
Yes.
Pan-Africanism. And the PPP was, of course, the People Political Party that was set up
Yes.
as a vehicle
Right.
to take us to our ultimate destination.
Right. So that was in 1929, and was actually the first political party in Jamaica. Now, the significance also of the UNIA is that although it was started in 1914 here in Jamaica, Garvey, having traveled through the Caribbean, decided in 1916 to go to the United States of America, and there he launched a branch of the UNIA, and that vehicle galvanized black people that the membership after a few years was numbered in the millions. So until today, Garvey's UNIA, at a zenith of probably 6 million people strong membership, is on record as the largest ever mass black movement in history. So obviously, with a strength of 6 million, he was a threat to the establishment of the United States of America, and he was found guilty of a false charge of mail fraud and imprisoned and sentenced to 5 years, but he was not allowed to complete the sentence. He survived an attempted assassination in the process, and until today they have not sought to clarify his innocence. So how do we now interpret the principles of Ma'at in terms of Garvey's?
Well, we can't see Garvey in violation of any of these 42 sacred laws of Mahat, because Garvey, heart, balance with the feather of truth. Therefore, Garvey is wrongfully in prison,
Yes.
and we're calling on the government of Jamaica
Yes.
to expunge Garvey. Coming up, you'll see a few Pan-Africanist speakers who share a common consciousness, a cohesive consciousness, that look at the three personality types in the world: the Sun personality, the Sun personality, and the Heist personality. Now, the Sun personality being the Arabs, the Heist personality being the Europeans, and the Sun personality being the Africans. The unfortunate mixing of these three personality types with their conflicting values create tragic in the African world. The unfortunate mixing of these personalities impact negatively the African both in the continent and in the diaspora. These speakers address these issues that is illustrated in this iconographical painting.
How many of you knew that when the African National Congress was founded in South Africa, there were Garveyites involved in the founding of the ANC, and that John Dube, one of the early leaders of the ANC, shout out to my South African brothers and sisters. I was supposed to be with you last June for the anniversary of the Soweto student uprising, but COVID canceled that. Shout out to all my South African brothers and sisters. Johannesburg, I love you. Soweto, I love you. Kailisha, I love you. KwaZulu, I love you. Durban, I love you. Cape Town, I love you. Zulus, I love you. Xhosa, I love you. Swazi, I love you. Shout out to all my South African brothers and sisters. When the ANC was founded, there were Garveyites involved in the founding of the ANC. Robert Sobukwe, who founded the Pan-African Congress. Robert Sobukwe, one of my greatest heroes, who was the mentor to Steve Biko. Robert Sobukwe, who was Steve Biko's mentor, was a Garveyite. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. Is Garveyism or get away from me? Is Garveyism or get away from me? It's Pan-Africanism or perish. It is Pan-Africanism or perish. You asked me about East Africa? Shout out to Kenya. You asked me about East Africa? Did you know that Jomo Kenyatta, one of the independence leaders of Kenya, met Marcus Garvey as a child in London? Jomo Kenyatta used to go listen to Marcus Garvey speak in London as a child, my brothers and sisters. As a child, Jomo Kenyatta used to go sit at Garvey's feet in London. Marcus Garvey is the father of African independence. Let's keep going. British Guyana, 7 divisions. Colombia, 6 divisions. Dominican Republic, 5 divisions of Garvey. Guatemala, 5 divisions. Barbados, 4 divisions of Garvey. British Honduras, 4 divisions of Garvey. Mexico, 4 divisions of Garvey. Sierra Leone, 3 divisions of Garvey. England, 2 divisions of Garvey. Ghana, 2 divisions of Garvey. Liberia, 2 divisions of Garvey. Bahamas, 2 divisions of Garvey. Panama, Southwest Africa, 2 divisions. Wales, 1 division. Antigua had a division. Australia had a division. Bermuda had a division. Brazil had a division. Dominica had a division. Ecuador had a division. Grenada, rest in peace to Maurice Bishop. Grenada, rest in peace to Maurice Bishop. Grenada, rest in peace to Maurice Bishop, had a division. Haiti had a division. Nevis a division. Nigeria a division. Speaking of Nigeria, Nnamdi Azikiwe, one of the independence fighters of Nigeria, went to school with Kwame Nkrumah in Philadelphia, Lincoln University, where they used to come to the Garvey meetings in Philadelphia. Kwame Nkrumah and Nnamdi Azikiwe, the leaders of an independent Nigeria and the leaders of an independent Ghana, went to school right here in Philadelphia, and they were members of the Garvey movement right here in Philadelphia. Puerto Rico, a division. St. Kitts, a division. St. Lucia, a division. St. Thomas, a division. St. Vincent, a division. Venezuela, a division. And guess what? And guess what, brothers and sisters? Guess what? These are not all of them. These are not all of them. These are not all of them. Why don't we have all the divisions listed? Why don't we have all the divisions listed? Because being a member of the Garvey movement was so controversial, so politically incorrect that a lot of Garveyites had to hide their identity so they wouldn't go to jail. Garveyism was banned in a lot of African colonies. The Garvey newspaper was banned throughout Africa and in many Caribbean islands. If you got caught with the Negro World newspaper, if you got caught with the Negro World newspaper, you could go to jail, you could be killed, you could lose your job. That's how powerful Garvey was. Let's understand something. Let's understand something. When Garvey starts the UNIA in 1914 in Jamaica, when Garvey starts the UNIA in 1914 in Jamaica, World War I was just getting underway. When World War I ends in 1918, we're at the early years of Garvey in America. When World War I ends in 1918, we're at the early years of Garvey in America. Black men are coming home from the war. Black men are coming home from the war. And when black men come home from World War II, they walk straight into the red hot summer of 1919. The red hot summer of 1919. Race riots all over America. Why were there so many race riots during the red hot summer of 1919? Because black men had went to Europe to fight for America. Black men had went to Europe to fight for America and get back home and they can't find a job. Get back home, they got to deal with the Ku Klux Klan. Get back home, they got to deal with police brutality. So we decided we weren't going to take it no more and we started fighting back. And Marcus Garvey was a central figure in the Red Summer of 1919 because he told black men, Marcus Garvey is the father of black masculinity. Marcus Garvey is the father of black masculinity. Marcus Garvey is the father of black masculinity. He told black men, give up your wishbone and get a backbone. Marcus Garvey said, give up your wishbone and get a backbone. Marcus Garvey said, give up your wishbone and get a backbone. Brothers and sisters of other organizations, I welcome you. Please don't get disrespectful. Please don't get disrespectful because the leader of your organization was a Garveyite too. The leader of your organization was a Garveyite too. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that. Your whole organization was copied off of Garveyism. Don't be disrespectful. If it wasn't for Marcus Garvey, your leader would have never existed. Your organization would have never existed. Don't go there with me. I got the receipts. Don't go there with me. I got the receipts. All y'all come from Garvey. Don't hate. Don't hate. All y'all come from Garvey. Don't hate. Not one of you did not. All of y'all came from Garvey, but y'all don't want to give them no credit. Because if you tell people about Garvey, they wouldn't need y'all. If you tell people about Garvey, they wouldn't need y'all. Don't go there with me. You don't want to go there with me. I'll make you cry. I'll make you cry. So now, brothers and sisters, Garvey stays in New York. When Garvey gets to New York, guess who he goes to visit? When Garvey gets to New York, guess who he goes to visit? When Garvey gets to New York, guess who he goes to visit? He goes to visit W.E.B. Du Bois at the NAACP crisis office. This is when Garvey first gets to America, March of 1916. He goes to visit Du Bois because he heard, W.E.B. Du Bois was a Pan-Africanist. He's 20 years older than Marcus Garvey, so he's old enough to be Marcus Garvey's father. So Marcus Garvey says, I'm going to go and visit my elder Pan-Africanist, W.E.B. Du Bois. But when he got there, Marcus Garvey was not impressed. Marcus Garvey said that when he walked into the NAACP office, I think he said the darkest thing in the office was W.E.B. Du Bois. He said it was all white folks and super light bright black folks. He said nobody in there was dark skinned. And that's why those of you who know the history of the NAACP, and by the way, I have nothing against my light brothers and sisters. Okay, and Pan-African is everybody equal. Light skin, dark skin, nappy hair, straight hair. If you African, you African. The point that I'm making is that W.E.B. Du Bois was a light-skinned supremacist. W.E.B. Du Bois was a light-skinned supremacist. And what a lot of you guys don't understand, his talented 10th was the comeback to Marcus Garvey, mass black organization. W.E.B. Du Bois' talented 10th was the comeback for Marcus Garvey's mass black organization. W.E.B. Du Bois' talented 10th, that was going to be a light-skinned bourgeoisie. W.E.B. Du Bois thought that the light-skinned black bourgeoisie should lead the race. He was an uppity Negro. Yes, he was Pan-Africanist. Yes, he was intelligent. But he was a jealous Negro. Let me say something to y'all. And I respect W.E.B. Du Bois. I'll pour libations at his grave whenever I go to Ghana. But let us understand. I want to clear this up. No, don't say F him. He's an ancestor. Don't you do that. And he did make his contribution. What he did to Garvey was wrong. What he did to Garvey was wrong. But we don't throw away no ancestors. We appreciate the good. We learn from the bad. I will still respect W.E.B. Du Bois for his contribution to Pan-Africanism and African scholarship. Let me be clear. Let me be clear, because I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Let me be clear. W.E.B. Du Bois is the father of sociology. I'm going to say it again. W.E.B. Du Bois, more than any white sociologist ever, W.E.B. Du Bois basically reinvented and elevated the study of social problems in America. He is the father of American sociology. Give credit where credit is due. Give credit where credit is due. With that being said, he was jealous of Garvey. Let me explain W.E.B. Du Bois' jealousy of Garvey. Let me explain W.E.B. Du Bois' jealousy of Garvey. W.E.B. Du Bois had an issue with Booker T. That man and W.E.B. Du Bois didn't get along. Because W.E.B. Du Bois, being the light-skinned supremacist that he was, being the black bourgeoisie talented 10th Negro that he was, he didn't understand the importance of Booker T. Washington saying we got to teach our people how to use their hands and build their own homes and build their own banks and build their own schools and build their own supermarkets. When Booker T. Washington was talking about black industrialization, when Booker T. Washington was talking about black industrialization, W.E.B. Du Bois kept worrying about being accepted by white folks. Booker T. Washington said, "What good is a vote?" Booker T. Washington told W.E.B. Du Bois, "What good is a vote if our people don't have a job? What good is a vote if you can't take care of your family? What good is a vote if you don't have your own business? What good is a vote if we ain't got our own hospitals? We ain't got our own schools?" Booker T understood what W.E.B. Du Bois was saying, and they were both Pan-Africanists. Booker T and W.E.B. were both Pan-Africanists. Booker T understood what W.E.B. was saying, but he said, "You putting the cart before the horse. Politics don't control money. Money control politics." So Booker T was trying to get W.E.B. Booker T was trying to get W.E.B. to understand, until the black man can take care of his family, build a house with his hands, having the right to vote means nothing. And I think black America can see today. I think black America can see today that Booker T, they were both right. You need economic power, you need political power. They were both right. You need economic power and political power, but Booker T was more right because he understood that the economic power creates the political. Booker T was more right because he understood that the economic power creates the political power, brothers and sisters. See, W.E.B. Du Bois felt that after Booker T died, he had a right to be the leader of Black America. W.E.B. Du Bois felt Frederick Douglass is gone, Booker T. Washington is gone, I should be king. W.E.B. Du Bois felt Frederick Douglass is gone, Booker T. Washington is gone, I should be king. So W.E.B. Du Bois, with his doctorate from Harvard and all his degrees, he felt that now that Booker T is gone, I should be the new leader. I should be the new leader. Booker T dies in 1915. Garvey shows up in 1916. Marcus Garvey prevents W.E.B. Du Bois. Marcus Garvey prevents unintentionally W.E.B. Du Bois from becoming the new HNIC. W.E.B. wanted to be the new HNIC. W.E.B. wanted to be the new HNIC. He said, Douglass is gone, Booker T is gone, I'm the new king. And right before he ascended the throne of Black leadership in America, right before W.E.B. Du Bois ascended the throne of Black leadership in America, a nappy-head Jamaican got off a banana boat. A nappy-head Jamaican got off a banana boat. A nappy-head Jamaican by the name of Marcus Garvey got off a banana boat and said, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. And that black man from Jamaica organized more black people than any leader in any organization you've ever seen since. And he did not have to use a religion to do it. I'm going to repeat it twice. Right before Du Bois became the leader, Garvey shows up off the banana boat, and Marcus Garvey starts speaking in Harlem, and he's organizing and energizing and motivating black people in a way no leader had done since Douglass. Garvey said, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. And that made Du Bois sit down. Garvey didn't have no Harvard degree, and he didn't need it. Garvey didn't study in Berlin, and he didn't need it. Garvey didn't come from Fisk, and he didn't need it. Garvey wasn't mixed race, and he didn't need it. And Garvey was able to build like no black man has ever built. And because of that, W.E.B. Du Bois got jealous. My great-grandfather was Cuban. Cuba was the most thoroughly organized Garvey Island in the Caribbean. My great-grandfather was Cuban. Cuba was the most thoroughly organized Garvey Island in the Caribbean. And W.E.B. Du Bois never forgave Garvey. W.E.B. Du Bois never forgave Garvey for taking his place on the leadership ladder. See, we have to talk about the HNIC syndrome amongst black men. We have to talk about the HNIC syndrome amongst black men. We have to talk about the HNIC syndrome amongst black men. Okay? And for you coons up in here, my ancestor Frederick Douglass was born in slavery. You understand me? Enslaved Africans on all four of my family trees. Enslaved Africans on all four of my family trees. But I'm not into what y'all into. I don't care about none of them groups y'all belong to. All these anti-African groups, we want to identify with slavery, but we don't want to identify with Africa. You Negroes are stupid, and you following stupid people. You're stupid, and you're following stupid people. I don't want to identify with Africa. I want to identify with slavery. Those movements are trash, but I'm not going to convince you. I don't have to convince you. Because black America has been down that road before. This is nothing new. Those two fake groups that were started by YouTube opportunists, those groups ain't taking you nowhere. The leaders of neither one of them are doing anything in the streets for black people. They're not even leaders. This is YouTube opportunists. They have never done anything for the black community. Nothing. They just think they can get some money by telling you don't be proud to be black. They think you can get some money by telling you don't come from Africa. They think they're going to help get you some reparations by telling you to hate the root of the tree. If you hate the root, you hate the whole tree. You hate Africa, you hate yourself, you fools. But I'm not going to convince you because we've already been down that way. Black America has already went through this. We're going to act like we're not from Africa. We've been through that, and it's gotten you nowhere. And it's never going to get you nowhere. Because if you understand anything about international relations, you have to understand that you must have allies. You got to have allies. You got to have allies. And I'm not giving up my biological allies in Africa. I'm not giving up my biological allies in the Caribbean. I'm not giving up my biological allies in the South Pacific. I'm not giving up my biological allies in Australia. You was a damn fool to let somebody convince you that you should disassociate from all your African kith and kin around the world so you can beg the white man for some crumbs. You are out of your mind. But guess what? You belong there. I want you to stay in those groups. And by the way, brothers and sisters, no disrespect to none of you. If you belong to either one of those African-American tribal groups, if you belong to either one of those fraudulent African-American tribalism groups, you will not be allowed on the campus of the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. In fact, for all my Pan-Africanists out there, when you come to FDMG, if you spot one of those African-American tribalist groups members out there, anybody who say they're not from Africa, you're not allowed at my school. We don't teach that. I want to say it again. I want to make sure y'all understand me. So nobody's angry when you get escorted off the campus. If you are not from Africa, you do not belong at my school for any reason. It is a Pan-African nationalist institution. If you do not ascribe to the teachings of Pan-Africanism, of African solidarity, of race first, of African family first, if you are not unapologetically African, you are not allowed at my school. I want to be clear with you. I want to be clear. And I'm counting on my Pan-Africanists out there that if you catch any of them I'm not from Africa people at any event, you catch any of those I'm not from Africa people at any event, please show me who they are so I can kindly throw their asses off Ifatunde Avenue. Please show me who they are so they can kindly be escorted off of Dr. Papa Boulevard. I am an African. I was born it. I'm going to live it. I'm going to die it. That is my flag. It is red, it is black, it is green. It was given to me in August of 1920 from Marcus Garvey and the Pan-Africanists who attended the first international convention of the African peoples of the world in Madison Square Garden, New York City. That is the only flag that will ever fly at FDMG. If you got any other flag, if you got any other loyalty, you are not welcomed at our institution. I speak for me, I speak for my donors, I speak for my supporters, I speak for the African family of the world. Take your divisionist, tribalist, separatist, self-hating ass somewhere else. Don't bring it to Delaware. Don't bring it to Delaware. So now, let me get back focused. I had an ADHD moment. So W.E.B. Du Bois worked to destroy Garvey because he was jealous. W.E.B. Du Bois worked to destroy Garvey because he was jealous. Okay? We don't have to debate that, sister. You've made your choice. I wish you well with your movement and your leader. He's not going to build anything for you. He's not going to do anything for you. But you're too dumb to know that. So just go ahead and just leave us alone. We're not, the Pan-Africanists don't bother nobody, brothers and sisters. We do our own thing. The Pan-Africanists don't bother nobody. We just do our own thing. So let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. So, on Marcus Garvey's birthday, 1918, Marcus Garvey's birthday, 1918, so he's now 9707, so he's 30. Marcus Garvey's 31st birthday, The Negro World is published. The first copies of The Negro World are pushed under people's doors. The first copies of The Negro World is pushed under people's doors, okay? So people could get familiar with the Negro World. And then the Negro World was such in demand. Remember, there was no TV yet. No internet, no Facebook, no Twitter, no MySpace, no websites, no nothing. So the newspaper was the main organ of communication. The Negro World became the most popular black newspaper in modern history. They had to translate the Negro World into Spanish, French. I believe the Negro World ended up being translated into like 6 to 12 different languages, and it was shipped all around the world, but it was banned in Africa. Most European colonizers banned the Garvey newspaper. If you got caught with the paper, you could go to jail, you could be killed, you could lose your job. Okay? So they had to smuggle the newspaper into Africa. They had to smuggle the Negro World Garvey paper into Africa. So a lot of the men who were in the military, they would take the newspaper under their clothes. They would put it under their clothes. And when they go to Africa, they would give the newspapers to the children, and the children would run into the villages, and the griots in the villages, and the chiefs, and the nanas, and the babas, they would read Marcus Garvey editorial to the entire village. And that's how Garveyism spread throughout Africa, along with the divisions in Africa. And you should also know that South Africa was the most thoroughly organized Marcus Garvey country in Africa. South Africa was the most thoroughly organized Marcus Garvey nation in Africa. Okay? But you had chapters of the Garvey movement in just about every country in Africa, including the Congo. Which is the richest piece of land in the world upon which the Black Panther story was written. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Patrice Lumumba was a Garveyite. All of the African independence leaders were Garveyite. See, Garvey dies in 1940. Garvey dies in England in 1940. 17 years later, Ghana is free. Kwame Nkrumah took the Garvey he studied in America, took it back, and birthed African independence from the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, which he said was the most important book, most influential book he ever read in his life. Somebody said, why did Garvey end up in Europe? Silly question, but you know that Jamaica was a colony of Europe. So if you were in a Jamaican colony, you had a much easier transit to Europe because you were considered one of the subjects of the crown of Europe, right? And Europe is right over Africa. Geographically, it's extremely close to Africa. So a lot of Pan-Africanists would go to Europe because it shrunk the gap of communication between them and the African continent. That's why so many Pan-Africanists ended up going to Europe as a strategic way to get close to Africa. Even until recently, when you fly to Africa, most of the time you had to fly into Europe first and then fly into Africa. Even now, when I go to Africa, a lot of times we have to stop in Europe or North Africa and then come down into sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? So, The Negro World is published on Garvey's birthday, 1918. 1919, Marcus Garvey incorporates the Black Star Line. 1919, Marcus Garvey incorporates the Black Star Line. 1919, Marcus Garvey incorporates the Black Star Line. Now, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. The Black Star Line was incorporated in Delaware in 1919. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy was incorporated in Delaware 2019. The Marcus Garvey Black Star Line was incorporated in Delaware 1919. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy was incorporated in Delaware 2019. There are no coincidences. I am the reincarnation. I am the reincarnation of Marcus Garvey.
That teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own.
We need a United States of Africa. We need an African superpower, so strong and powerful that every nation of the world will be forced by its power to respect the black man within its boundaries. He said that 60 years ago. But Marcus Mosiah Garvey was not the first prophet or teacher of the African race to tell us that.
To purchase your copy of this iconographical artwork, contact us through the Al-Kibulan Fine Art Gallery, the Portrait Department, at Stanley Portrait Studio at hotmail.com, or phone number 1-876-570-2255. Thank you.
I have a vision about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I have a vision about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He was a youth like any other youth. He was a speaker, he speak universally.